it's Jo Huey here, and today I am going to talk about loneliness. It's something I've experienced myself, and I know it's a really big topic that people are talking about at the moment, so I wanted to give my opinion about it and talk about things like what the definition of loneliness is in the Oxford Dictionary. And it quotes sadness because one has no friends or company, and it also says about isolation and abandonment. And I think that that's a simplistic view of loneliness. I think there's a lot more going on than that. It's not about, for me anyway, it's not just about not having friends or having company, because we all know that we can be in a room with lots of friends and lots of people and still feel lonely. So my understanding and from my own experience is that it's an internal feeling of disconnection, either with ourselves or with others. So that internal feeling of disconnection can happen anytime, any place, whether you're on your own or with a bunch of friends or whatever. So that's my kind of definition, I suppose. It's internal feeling of disconnection with self and others. So how does it feel? I can obviously only speak from my own experience, which would be a sense, a feeling of sadness, of hurt. You know, I sort of feel it in my body, and sometimes sort of in my heart, if that makes sense. Sometimes I get like a sickness, an aching, and sometimes I can feel quite tense. So that's, for me anyway, how it feels, how loneliness feels. So how can we feel connected internally and externally? So there's some obvious things externally, so things like making new connections with people, whether that's going into a group where you might not have to interact too much, just to take it easy the first few times. Obviously there's Al-Anon groups that you can go to where there are people just like you that have been affected by someone's drinking, and they totally get where you're coming from. And I know when I first was thinking about going to an Al-Anon group, I thought, well, my dad's passed away a number of years ago. I feel a bit of a fraud turning up because actually, you know, he's not in my life anymore. You know, there's no more drama. But obviously those of you that are watching this will probably laugh and realise, of course, there was still drama in my life because I was still the child of an alcoholic and still acting in all the ways that we do. So I turned up to that meeting and it blew my mind actually, because for pretty much most of my life I'd felt disconnected, internally disconnected, and I went to those meetings, and within no time, I'd say 1 or 2 sessions of going, I felt a connection I had never experienced before, a sense of camaraderie, which really means a lot to me. And you know, these people in this group were saying things that I've said myself, feeling the same way that I felt. And so that gave me, you know, this sense of connection on an external level, you know, with other people just like me. There's also other things like online groups, and you know, there is an online Al-Anon group and other online groups. I run my own Change Your Mind Facebook group, again with other people that are just like us, that know what it's like to live with a drinker. And you know, even if it's a different type of online group, whether that's a social thing or sport, whatever it is you're into, it's a way of kind of gently easing yourself in, so you can be a sort of a watcher and just see what's going on until you feel such, you know, confidence to start talking. And that's really good if you either can't get out, or, you know, let's say if it was an Al-Anon meeting and there isn't one near you, that's a really good way of being able to connect with people. Obviously face-to-face things, social events, also things like volunteering. I volunteer at Ad-Action, and I have to say I absolutely love it, and it gives me a sense of purpose. It's very fulfilling, and this is what affects me on an internal level. So it gives me that sense of fulfillment. So internally, I feel that I have purpose. I'm connecting with myself in that this is something that fulfills me. That's not something external. So in terms of how you can feel more connected internally, listen to yourself. Big one. Very few of us do it. I know I didn't do it, and we are very good at listening to the chatter, which can often be negative. But I'm talking about the moments when you're about to do something and something inside of you just goes, don't go that route, don't say that thing, don't listen to that. That's about trusting your gut instinct and listening to yourself. That voice will be really quiet initially, but the more you listen to it, the louder it will get, and you will start to pay attention to it, and you're listening to yourself, you're connecting with what's going on in you. So that's one way. You can obviously get help and speak to a professional like myself. You can speak to somebody that's been there, that knows exactly what you're going through, talking and helping to understand really what's at the root of your internal feeling of disconnection. That, can take some time. It depends. You might know when that started or what the cause of that is for you. But sometimes it's good to speak to somebody that doesn't know your story and that can help you from an external and objective perspective. Talk to friends that you trust. They know you, you know them. You might feel more comfortable speaking to them about how you're feeling internally, how that disconnection feels for you. And just having somebody to listen then creates that external connection as well. Then looking at things that you enjoy and things that fulfill you, I think is another really good way of feeling connected with yourself, because again, you're listening to what you need and what you want, and doing something that gives you purpose creates an amazing connection in yourself. So I hope that some of these suggestions are helpful and that the definition that I've given you makes sense, that internal feeling of disconnection with self or others and how it feels in your body. Start to pay attention when you are feeling lonely, see how it feels in your body. I use emotional freedom technique, which is amazing at working with your emotions and obviously the problem that you're having, so loneliness. I've got a ton of YouTube videos if you want to have a look at those, and I also share some demonstrations of emotional freedom technique, which is a tapping technique. So you tap on meridian points of the body whilst repeating a certain phrase. So for example, you could start tapping saying, I'm feeling really lonely and disconnected from my friends, or whatever it might be. What I would say as a parting note is loneliness is within a context. It doesn't have to be that you feel lonely in all areas of your life. It might just be you feel lonely at work, or you feel lonely in social situations or in your intimate relationships. You may feel it all the time, but be clear about what that is, because otherwise you can make something that's not as massive, you can then make it into a bigger thing. So look at the context. Are you lonely in all situations, or is it only at certain times, with certain people, in certain places? So hopefully you found that helpful. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to email me private message, my email is jo at Jo Huey, that's JOHUEY.co.uk. So that's jo at johuey.co.uk. Take care of yourselves. Bye.